with this record, you mentioned the closest thing that the songs could be, you wanted them to be catchy and accessible. What intrigued you about this direction in particular?
One thing that's kind of escaped me is having kind of some type of commercial success. And it's not that I wanted to be like a pop star or anything, but I thought that would be an interesting avenue to go to try to kind of make something that was accessible in a way that was more than kind of just like an indie thing or something. And I know that like it scares people when you say like, oh, I want to be accessible, because they immediately think that you're trying to make something that's like super poppy, but that's not the case. It just, in my own way, I wanted to try to explore what it was like to make something that was immediate.
The tones of the textures of the record are very dark, you mentioned. I mean, was that an intentional approach for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I was really influenced with having kind of these songs that I felt like were catchy to me, or like kind of like, you know, either classically like kind of a classic kind of pop song or a classic kind of 70s chord structure, but having kind of a soundscape in it, you know, or having to go over it. So it was something that was like kind of, I've always listened to a lot of soundtracks. I love soundtracks, and I wanted to kind of have that texture of a soundscape going on within, you know, a song that's straightforward. To give it kind of, a richness, more of a subtext.
So much has been made about the Smith Wessons, you know, breakup, and you mentioned it was appropriate. There was no anger, but after the breakup, I mean, you know, you went back to how you were when you were 18 years old, kind of like you lost your identity. I mean, how did you go about reinventing yourself? What was it like? I mean, was that a tough task?
I think that, and that's the whole idea of the reinvention, was something that came about through the creation of the record. I mean, I think now, sitting here, it's like, oh, obviously I could go make another record and there'd be some interest and I'd have a label to support me. But at the time when that happened, it was very much kind of like, all right, like, got this weight off of me that I'm not doing this band anymore with all these deadlines and all these things to meet, and kind of just not having as much fun as I used to have when I was in Smith Westerns. And after that kind of passed, that like kind of joy of like shedding that, I kind of realized kind of like, well, what do I do next, you know? And there was no kind of path that was illuminated to me that said, you know, go get signed to Sub Pop and make another record and put it out on tour. So it was very much kind of me, and I handled it poorly, you know. I was very much kind of self-destructive in a sense of like, I would stay pretty much only at my apartment and just get hooked up all day long, you know, and then maybe wake up at like 2 or 3 and then go out that night and just keep, you know, drinking or doing whatever, you know, things. And then through that process of kind of like realizing that's not a sustainable way of living and that's not like a way to live, I would kind of write songs. And since there was no deadline, I kind of just go about like, oh, well, you know, I feel like writing a song today, you know. And then if anything out of that was worth salvaging, then I would go and workshop it. And then kind of a lot of dead ends, like a lot of songs that didn't make the cut, but the few that did ended up being on the record. And so I feel like it's kind of, each song is an earmark to kind of where I was along this kind of path of like figuring out where I was. Because I, you know, even after I finished all the songs of the record, I still didn't get a record deal. Like it was only after I had the whole body of songs demoed that I got a record deal. So it's the whole song is in a place kind of just being all right with myself before kind of, you know, getting the record deal and getting the whole thing going, which was, you know, great, but I felt like I was able to figure it out without kind of that, like any outside help.
I wanted to, Cullen, get some of your views on the material on the record. I mean, firstly, the album opener, No Big Deal. I mean, I understand you wrote the album in the order that it was actually written in and the way it's presented. When you're sequencing the record, was this the natural choice as the album opener, or was it just because you made it like that?
You know, it ended up, when I did so many iterations of kind of how I wanted the record to be track listed, and I did one where it was like slow to fast, fast to slow, alphabetical one, like how it was written one, and then also I also kind of, it worked out where it was almost chronological. There's a couple songs that, I guess Synthetic Romance would be the absolute first song I did, but I kind of set it up as a set list, you know. I looked at the 10 songs, and after being on tour for so many years, I kind of was like, you know, I should set this up as a listening experience and stay where that you would set up a set, you know. And so I feel like it moves in a way that kind of starts off and then mellows and then starts back up again, and then gets a little heavier and deeper, then gets a little bit lighter, and then comes back and resolves. And that was kind of what I was trying to do with the sequencing. I think No Big Deal is a great opener. I think, you know, lyrically it's just kind of like, you know, this sardonic kind of, you know, fuck it song or something like that, you know, and think it's very appropriate.
Do you still feel that your professional and personal lives are very much the same? I mean, music is, you exist to make music.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah. I mean, I think that's 100% true. I mean, and that's something that like, it's great, but at the same time, it's awful. You know that like you're tied so much to this thing that you create. And that was something also with the whole writing process of growing up and being in a band and the idea that like I came straight out when I was like 17, started making music, and whatever I was making, I embodied, you know, and so when it got good reviews, it felt good. It felt like that was a reflection on myself as a person. When it got bad reviews, it felt like, you know, that was an indictment on my person, and that's not a good way to live your life, you know. I mean, like that, it just shows that like kind of like, you know, you when something bad happens review wise or something like that, you take it very personally, you know, and that's because you are so. You don't like leave the job, you know, it's with you all the time. It's like, you know, I could be creating, you know, writing a song at like, you know, early in the morning or late at night. It's not like I ever have a break, you know, and yeah, super personal, you know, I take it very seriously.
And I understand you do movie reviews as well, and whilst you were a fan of Steve Jobs and The Revenant, one of the films that's been lauded in Star Wars: The Force Awakens, you did not like it.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing too. Is the joke is that I live the life of someone that's retired now, but when I'm 70, I'll be living the life of like a 14-year-old because I'll be broke and have no money and have to like flip burgers. But I go to a movie maybe twice a week. You know, I see a lot of movies. And the movies that I don't see in the theaters, I watch a ton at home. I really didn't like Star Wars. I felt it was really pandering to kind of the whole nostalgia of it. There was nothing new. Like, I mean, even if you look at the new Star Trek, at least that's like kind of like a hybrid of new and old, and like someone's taking a risk. But this felt like, well, you know, that's the thing I liked about the prequel Star Wars ones or whatever, the 1 through 3, was that. Yeah, like I had Jar Jar Binks, I had some dumb shit in it, but like you have to like, you know, have some dumb shit to make cooler stuff, you know, like the scene when Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor are in the room that gets gas and they have to like lightsaber their way out. That's a great scene, you know what I mean? But it just felt like the Force Awakens one or whatever was just kind of like the original episode 4 or whatever, just like reshot with different people and nicer like, you know, effects.
What do you make of the Chicago Bears? I mean, is Jay Cutler somebody that you've got faith in?
Yeah, I hate Jay Cutler. I think he needs to leave. I mean, he's been hogging the salary cap. We need to rebuild. I mean, that's kind of the spot that the Bulls are in too. You have these players that were supposed to be amazing. Well, I guess Derrick Rose was way better than Jay Cutler ever was in his sport. But yeah, I think Jay Cutler just is not good. Like I think we've been to the playoffs once since 2006 when we were in the NFC or something like that. And I gave up. I stopped watching because I just it's too frustrating. Like the Bears need to seriously rebuild before I can start watching again. You know, it's just like they're not competitive. And the same with the Bulls. Like Jimmy Butler is great, but you know, Derrick Rose is now going to become a player that's going to average more like 11 points a night, not 30 or whatever. You know what I mean? Like he's not. Russell Westbrook is totally the epitome of what Derrick Rose could have been. And, you know, unfortunately, Derrick Rose is, like, made of glass. So, whatever, you know.
What you think is attainable in terms of success, has that view changed for you?
Yeah, you know, I don't think what's attainable, but it's like, I feel like my expectations of what it means to be successful have changed. I think before it was a kind of like getting to the next higher and higher step, whether that was like the bigger rooms we were playing, the more records I sold. And now I feel it's more like kind of being able to sustain a career and do it in the long term. Like I would much rather be able to do this for 15 years than have like a massive song and be like popular for 1 year and then that's it. You know what I mean? And that's something you can really only obtain if you do what you want to do and you have like a cult status, you know, and I'm totally fine with that.
You really identify with Mickey Rourke in The Wrestler.
Yeah. I also identify with Llewyn Davis too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think that like the idea of being like this realistic thing of like you're gonna be the underdog, but it's not gonna totally work out. You know, it's like there's seldom ever like a real like triumphant ending, and that's fine with me. You know, it's like if you're enjoying yourself during it and allowing yourself to enjoy it, if you're concentrating the whole time on like how many tickets you're selling or how much money you're making or whatever, which became kind of a thing in Smith Westerns, it's like you're not going to enjoy it. Like I said earlier, it's like as long as I can do it, I'm happy at this point, As long as I'm able to tour, and not have to worry about being broke or whatever, which I'm not right now, I'm fine,
Since the release has come out and you've received some really good reviews and, for your hard work,
Yeah.
what satisfied you most with the progression to date?
I don't know, there's the fact that I'm doing it. I think the idea of like doing it on my own was something that I always felt like I was told that like I couldn't do, like I would need a band and I would need all these different things behind me, but the way that things have gone, so the things that have gone well and things that have gone bad, that I've been able to shoulder it myself and I'm able to do it individually, I think it's really nice to know,
You popped a tweet up and you said, I think Boy George is my favorite style inspiration.
Yeah. Love the hats and the braids, and it's cool. It's really cool. And there's something to be said about like dressing that crazy, but having people just accept it. It's cool. It just goes to show that like as long as like what you're putting out is decent, you're good. People will accept kind of the packaging it comes in. And like that's like a cool thing.
What do you hope to excel with as you head forward?
I don't know. I mean, to me, achievement would just be continuing to play music, continuing to be able to come over here, continuing to be able to travel the world and travel the U.S. and keep playing shows and hopefully keep turning more people on, having more people come back each time. It's something I really would like to have and like have a career. Have like a steady kind of success.